This was one of the most violent towns in the entire world.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Guys, we got a problem.
What the was that?
Oh my God!
Let's do it.
Zak Bagans was the undisputed king of paranormal television. For over 15 years, ghost adventures dominated the airwaves, making Zak one of the most recognizable faces in the supernatural world. He built a multi-million-dollar haunted museum empire in Las Vegas. He had the power to greenlight shows, launch careers, and control an entire industry. He seemed absolutely untouchable. But 2024 became the year everything collapsed. Former cast members broke their silence. Evidence of deception surfaced. Allegations of sabotage emerged. And the truth about what really happened behind the cameras finally came to light. Nick Groff revealed why he was really forced out. Dakota exposed how Destination Fear was canceled. Bill Hartley spoke about his show being destroyed. Location owners detailed mistreatment and exploitation, and proof emerged that investigations were scripted. This is the complete story of how Zak Bagans went from paranormal pioneer to the most controversial figure in ghost hunting. The exposés started small but grew into an avalanche of accusations that Zak couldn't control or silence. Anonymous TikTok accounts, former colleagues finding their courage, victims of his alleged manipulation speaking publicly, each revelation more damaging than the last. The museum he built on stolen ideas, the shows he systematically destroyed, the careers he deliberately ruined, the ultimatums he gave networks, the scripted moments presented as real, the locations he threatened legally, the cast members he blacklisted, everything carefully hidden for years suddenly exposed. And at the center of it all was Zak Bagans, the man who built an empire by tearing others down. This isn't speculation or rumor. These are documented accounts from people who worked with him, filmed with him, trusted him. People who stayed silent out of fear until they couldn't anymore. Because when you have the power Zak had, the fall is inevitable. And in 2024, he fell hard. This is that story. Every allegation, every controversy, every victim. The complete truth about Zak Bagans. Zak Bagans was born in Washington, D.C. in 1977 and grew up between Michigan and Nevada. He started his career as an aspiring filmmaker and wedding DJ in Las Vegas. After claiming to have a profound paranormal experience, he became obsessed with documenting the supernatural. In 2004, he created the original Ghost Adventures documentary with his friend Nick Groff and cameraman Aaron Goodwin. The documentary featured the trio investigating abandoned buildings in Nevada using a raw, unpolished style that felt authentic compared to other paranormal shows. Travel Channel saw the documentary and commissioned a series. Ghost Adventures premiered in October 2008 with a revolutionary format. The lockdown concept meant spending entire nights in haunted locations. The POV camera work made viewers feel like they were part of the investigation. And Zak's aggressive, confrontational approach to spirits was unlike anything audiences had seen. He didn't politely ask questions. He provoked, challenged, and demanded responses. It was controversial, but it worked. Ghost Adventures became Travel Channel's highest-rated show almost immediately. The show's success came from multiple factors. The chemistry between Zak, Nick, and Aaron felt genuine. The locations were legitimately creepy and historically significant. The evidence they captured seemed compelling, and Zak's personality was magnetic, whether you loved him or hated him. He wore all black constantly, projected an intense, serious energy, and claimed to be an energy magnet who attracted paranormal activity. His dramatic reactions made great television. Within a few years, Ghost Adventures was a cultural phenomenon. Over 25 seasons were produced with hundreds of episodes filmed. The show went international, investigating locations across multiple continents. Spin-offs and specials multiplied. Ghost Adventures made paranormal investigation mainstream entertainment. Zak leveraged this success into an empire. In 2017, he opened his haunted museum in Las Vegas, a massive tourist attraction filled with allegedly cursed and haunted objects. Admission cost $35 or more, and thousands visited weekly. The museum spawned its own documentary series, merchandise lines, and constant media coverage. Zak's estimated net worth grew to over $30 million. He had speaking engagements, book deals, convention appearances. He was the face of paranormal television. And with that fame came power. Zak Bagans wasn't just the star of Ghost Adventures. He was an executive producer with creative control. He had influence with Travel Channel executives who depended on his show for ratings. He could greenlight projects, recommend talent, and shape the network's entire paranormal programming strategy. Other shows copied his format, hoping to replicate his success. He inspired an entire generation of paranormal investigators who grew up watching Ghost Adventures. Conventions featured him as the headline act. His social media following reached millions. He seemed to have complete control over his brand and his industry. But behind the scenes, a different Zak Bagans was emerging. One that former colleagues would eventually describe as controlling, jealous, and vindictive. Someone who couldn't handle competition or being challenged. Someone who used his power not just to build his own success, but to tear down anyone he perceived as a threat. The public saw the paranormal investigator confronting spirits. What they didn't see was the man who would systematically destroy the careers of his closest friends and colleagues. That truth stayed hidden for over a decade, until 2024, when the people he hurt finally started talking. Nick Groff was there from the very beginning. He wasn't just a cast member of Ghost Adventures. He was the co-creator who helped Zak develop the original 2004 documentary that launched everything. Nick appeared in every episode for the first 10 seasons, serving as the tech expert and equipment specialist. He edited many of the early episodes himself. His balanced, thoughtful approach to investigations complemented Zak's aggressive style. Fans loved the dynamic between them. Nick was the calm to Zak's intensity, the believer who sought to help spirits rather than provoke them. His presence made the show feel more credible and less like theatrics. For a decade, Nick Groff and Zak Bagans were synonymous with Ghost Adventures. They filmed hundreds of locations together, built the show's reputation together, became famous together. Then suddenly, after season 10 in 2014, Nick Groff was gone. No explanation, no farewell episode, no acknowledgement that one of the show's 3 creators had left. Travel Channel stayed silent. Zak didn't address it, and Nick, presumably bound by legal agreements, couldn't speak publicly about what really happened. Fans were shocked and confused. The official story was vague and unsatisfying. The official explanation was that Nick was pursuing other opportunities and that there was a mutual agreement to part ways. Network statements suggested Nick wanted to develop his own projects and the split was amicable. But anyone watching the final episodes before Nick's departure could see tension. Body language between him and Zak showed strain. Interactions felt forced and uncomfortable. Something was clearly wrong, but nobody was saying what. For 10 years, the truth stayed buried. Nick moved on, creating his own show called Paranormal Lockdown with co-host Katrina Weidman. The show focused on 72-hour investigations instead of single nights, allowing for more thorough documentation. It premiered on Destination America Network in 2016 and became their highest-rated show immediately. Critics and fans praised it as more serious and evidence-focused than Ghost Adventures. Nick was proving he didn't need Zak Bagans to succeed. In fact, many felt his show was better. That success would have consequences neither Nick nor his fans anticipated. But the full story didn't emerge until March 2024, when Nick finally broke his silence. In a detailed video posted to social media, he revealed the truth about his departure and what came after. Nick Groff's 2024 revelation shocked the paranormal community. He explained that he never had a non-disclosure agreement preventing him from speaking. He wasn't directly fired from Ghost Adventures. Instead, Zak Bagans gave Travel Channel an ultimatum. Either Nick goes or Zak doesn't show up to the next filming location. The network faced an impossible choice: lose their biggest star and highest-rated show, or let go of one co-host. They chose Zak. For 2 months, Nick was dragged along with excuses. "We don't need you at this location." Then next week, "We don't need you at that location either." He kept waiting for clarity that never came. Finally, his lawyer intervened and gave him a choice: sit indefinitely hoping to return, or move on and create something new. Nick chose to move on and created Paranormal Lockdown. But leaving Ghost Adventures didn't end Zak's interference in his career. The jealousy factor was obvious. Nick's contract with Ghost Adventures had allowed him to produce other shows, just like Zak had permission to do other projects. But when Nick's Paranormal Lockdown premiered and became successful, Zak couldn't handle it. The student was succeeding without the teacher. Someone from Zak's circle was thriving independently. Paranormal Lockdown's success made Zak Bagans' interference escalate dramatically. The show was praised for its serious approach and impressive evidence collection. Nick and Katrina's chemistry worked beautifully. Fans loved the 72-hour format that allowed deeper investigations than Ghost Adventure's single-night stays. The show was renewed for multiple seasons with promises of continued production. Nick was told by network executives that Paranormal Lockdown would continue for at least 20 more episodes. Everything seemed stable and successful. Then suddenly, radio silence. The network stopped communicating. Promised episodes were never scheduled. Nick tried to find out what happened but got no answers. Then years later, Dakota confirmed what Nick had suspected all along. Dakota witnessed Zak at a filming location walking into a room bragging and laughing. Haha, Nick's never going to work in America again because I gave the network an ultimatum to choose him or me. Zak had called network executives and demanded Paranormal Lockdown be canceled or he would pull Ghost Adventures from the channel. Once again, the network chose Zak. Nick's show was dead, but the sabotage didn't stop there. Zak Bagans didn't just kill Paranormal Lockdown, he actively worked to destroy Nick Groff's entire career in the paranormal industry. Multiple production company executives reached out to Nick, confirming that Zak had called them personally and told them not to work with him. Zak spread rumors about Nick, claiming he had done unspecified bad things that justified his firing. He went on Twitter and made public accusations without providing any evidence or details. He posted things like, "Anyone out there who gets fired from a job for doing bad things can't use said job as a resume of achievements. Total deception." He wrote, "Disgusted to see someone using our show name Ghost Adventures to keep promoting shows and himself that we want absolutely nothing to do with." These vague accusations damaged Nick's reputation without giving him a chance to defend himself against specific claims. Network executives told Nick directly that they couldn't hire him as long as Zak was working with their channel. "We can't have you on this network while he's here." Nick had been effectively blacklisted from the entire paranormal television industry, all because Zak couldn't handle someone else being successful. The betrayal was complete. A friendship and creative partnership that lasted over a decade destroyed by jealousy and ego. Nick Groff's response to these revelations in 2024 showed remarkable grace despite everything Zak had done. He explained that he took full control of his new project, Deathwalker, ensuring no network could interfere or cancel it based on one person's ego. He stated publicly that he's way happier now with full control over his work, away from toxic people and relationships. He's free to pursue real paranormal investigations without restraints or compromise. His family life with wife Tessa and their children is thriving. He and Tessa work together on projects and pursue their shared passion for paranormal research. Nick emphasized that he could go on and on about why I have zero respect for these certain people I worked with in the past, but he chose to focus on moving forward rather than dwelling on anger. He addressed false allegations that had circulated about him, including rumors of cheating and affairs, calling them completely false, and stating that these rumors were put out into the media purposely by a very hateful and jealous woman. Nick made clear that despite Zak's efforts to destroy his career, he never stopped pursuing his passion. He kept creating content, kept investigating, kept building his own path. Zak Bagans had the power to hurt him, but not to stop him. Dakota grew up watching Ghost Adventures. Zak Bagans was his hero and inspiration for getting into paranormal investigation. When Dakota finally got the opportunity to work with Zak, appearing in Ghost Adventures episodes, it seemed like a dream come true. Zak took Dakota under his wing as a mentee, giving him guidance and opportunities within the show. Their relationship appeared close, almost like Zak was grooming Dakota as a potential successor. Dakota was young, energetic, fearless, and had natural charisma on camera. He brought fresh energy to Ghost Adventures guest appearances. Eventually, Dakota pitched his own show concept to Travel Channel called Destination Fear. The show would feature Dakota, his sister Chelsea Layden, and friend Tanner Wiseman traveling cross-country to investigate haunted locations. Each team member would face fears in isolation. The road trip format and sibling dynamic created something different from existing paranormal shows. Travel Channel greenlit the concept, and Destination Fear premiered in October 2019. The show was an immediate hit, especially with younger demographics. Chelsea became a fan favorite for her bravery and genuine reactions. Dakota's leadership and Tanner's humor created great chemistry. The show felt authentic in ways Ghost Adventures sometimes didn't. It was less polished, more raw, and the fears seemed real. Destination. Fear's success grew with each season. The show was consistently outperforming Ghost Adventures in key demographics, particularly viewers aged 18 to 35. 4 successful seasons were produced with strong ratings throughout. Critics praised the show's fresh approach and authentic feeling. Chelsea Layden was breaking barriers as a strong female lead in paranormal television, inspiring many young women. The show's popularity created buzz on social media with passionate fans defending it against other paranormal shows. Everything pointed to continued success, with Season 5 being planned and discussed. But that success created a problem. Dakota Layden was Zak's student, his protege, someone he had mentored personally. Now Dakota's show was more popular with young viewers than Ghost Adventures. The student was surpassing the teacher. Zak's ego couldn't handle it. Dakota began noticing changes in their relationship. Zak became distant and cold. Interactions at events were awkward and tense. Dakota tried reaching out but was ignored. Chelsea noticed the shift too. Something had clearly changed, but Dakota didn't understand what or why. He thought maybe Zak was busy or dealing with personal issues. The truth was much darker. Zak was already planning to kill Destination Fear. The cancellation came suddenly in 2023 after Season 4. No warning was given to the cast. Production had been planning Season 5 with locations already scouted. The team was ready to continue their successful run. Then Travel Channel informed them the show was canceled effective immediately. The reasons given were vague and unsatisfying, standard corporate language about business decisions and programming changes. But Dakota knew something else was happening. Rumors started circulating that Zak Bagans had been involved in the cancellation. Dakota received a phone call warning him to be very careful about what he said publicly. He posted a video addressing the rumors directly. Did Zak Bagans shut down Destination Fear? No, he didn't. Did Zak Bagans call the network and say shut it down? No, he didn't. But then he added carefully, however, does that mean that Zak and me are friends and that he's been supporting the show and everything has been chipper and great? No, it doesn't. And I have a lot to say and more to come on that front. Dakota couldn't say everything he wanted due to legal or professional restrictions, but his message was clear. There was much more to the story, and the truth would eventually come out. That truth would connect directly to what happened to Nick Groff. Dakota Layden's confirmation came when he finally spoke openly about what he witnessed years earlier. He was at a filming location with Zak when something happened that he never forgot. Zak walked into a room where Dakota and others were present, bragging and laughing about something. According to Dakota's account, Zak said proudly, "Haha, Nick's never going to work in America again because I gave the network an ultimatum to choose him or me." He was boasting about destroying Nick Groff's paranormal lockdown show and career. At the time, Dakota didn't fully process what this meant. He was still in Zak's inner circle and dependent on his goodwill. But years later, after his own show was canceled under suspicious circumstances, Dakota realized the pattern. Zak had done to him exactly what he'd done to Nick Groff, given the network an ultimatum. Destination Fear was too successful. It was threatening Ghost Adventures' dominance. So Zak made a call. Either cancel Destination Fear or lose Ghost Adventures. The network chose Zak again. Dakota reached out to Nick and confirmed what had happened, told him directly what he'd witnessed Zak bragging about years ago. That confirmation was crucial. It proved Nick wasn't paranoid or bitter. Zak really had systematically destroyed his show and career out of pure jealousy. And now, Dakota and Chelsea were the latest victims. The aftermath of Destination Fear's cancellation could have been devastating for Dakota and Chelsea Layden. Their rising careers were abruptly halted. Plans for future seasons evaporated. Income from the show disappeared. Many would have given up or struggled to find new opportunities. But Dakota and Chelsea took a different approach. They embraced the cancellation with surprising positivity and humor. They launched Project Fear on YouTube, taking their show directly to fans without network interference. Dakota posted a video where he literally celebrated getting canceled. "You got canceled!" became their rallying cry, turning something negative into a badge of honor. The response was overwhelming. Fans flooded to their YouTube channel. Project Fear became hugely successful without any network support. They started collaborating with other major paranormal YouTubers. Sam and Colby, two of the biggest names in paranormal content, partnered with them for investigations. The Paranormal Files, another respected channel, invited them to collaborate. Twin Paranormal wanted to work with them. Suddenly, Dakota and Chelsea had more freedom, more creative control, and arguably more success than they ever had on Travel Channel. They were proving that network television wasn't necessary anymore. YouTube gave them direct connection to their audience without network executives or jealous competitors interfering. Chelsea Layden's role in this story deserves specific attention. She was forced onto YouTube alongside her brother after their show was canceled because of Zak Bagans' ego. Her career in television was just beginning to flourish. She had become a role model for young women interested in paranormal investigation, showing that women could be just as brave and capable as male investigators. Her genuine reactions and fearless approach to scary situations made her a fan favorite. She wasn't the damsel in distress stereotype. She faced terrifying locations head-on and often showed more courage than her male counterparts. Her success threatened the male-dominated paranormal television space. And Zak's decision to kill Destination Fear didn't just hurt Dakota, it hurt Chelsea's rising career. But like her brother, Chelsea adapted and thrived. On YouTube, she gained even more popularity and respect. She maintained her strong presence in the paranormal field. Fans rallied behind her specifically, recognizing that she'd been unfairly targeted by someone else's jealousy. The pattern of Zak's behavior was now undeniable. Nick Groff had a successful show. Zak killed it. Dakota Layden had a successful show. Zak killed it. Anyone who challenged ghost adventures or succeeded in paranormal television became a target. And Zak's power over Travel Channel seemed absolute. Networks chose him every single time, until they didn't. In March 2024, a TikTok account called Haunted Heights appeared and began posting videos about Zak Bagans. The account claimed to have known Zak before he was famous and to have worked with him in the early paranormal days. The videos started going viral immediately as Haunted Heights alleged that money and fame went straight to Zak's head, and that he gained power to shut down any paranormal channels that challenged him. One of the first major allegations involved Zak's famous haunted museum in Las Vegas. According to Haunted Heights, the entire concept was stolen from someone else. That someone was John Zaffis, nephew of legendary paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. John Zaffis is considered by many to be the godfather of the paranormal world, having investigated alongside his famous aunt and uncle for decades. John had created his own private paranormal museum in the basement of his home. The outhouse above contained his working offices. The underground museum housed artifacts John had collected over his many years of investigating, but he kept it very private. Almost nobody was allowed inside. According to Haunted Heights' account, Ed, Lorraine, and John were the first people to ever assemble a paranormal museum. It was a groundbreaking concept that nobody else had attempted before. Haunted Heights claimed to be friends with both John Zaffis and Zak Bagans at the time. During a conversation, he mentioned John's private museum to Zak casually, not thinking much of it. Zak immediately got very interested and called John directly, asking if he could visit the museum. Both John and Haunted Heights found this request extremely odd and out of character for Zak. But before visiting, Zak specifically told John that he didn't want anything from it, and just wanted to see the artifacts John had collected over the years. John agreed to the visit, thinking it was simply professional curiosity or friendly interest. What happened next raised massive red flags. Zak showed up with a full promotion crew and camera crew. He went through the entire museum taking photographs of every artifact. He posed with items. He documented everything extensively. Then he left. Both John Zaffis and Haunted Heights found the visit extremely strange and suspicious. Why bring cameras and a promotion team if it was just a friendly visit to see artifacts? Shortly after this visit, Zak announced he was opening his own haunted museum in Las Vegas. The concept was nearly identical to John's private collection, but commercialized for the public. Haunted Heights stated directly that he believes Zak 1,000% ripped off John's idea. The Haunted Museum opened in Las Vegas in 2017 and became a massive commercial success. Admission cost $35 or more per person. The museum contained multiple buildings filled with allegedly haunted and cursed objects from paranormal investigations. It became a major tourist attraction with thousands of visitors weekly. Zak created a documentary series about the museum and its artifacts. Merchandise and promotions generated additional revenue. The museum was highly profitable, adding significantly to Zak's estimated $30 million net worth. But according to Haunted Heights allegations, there were problems with how the museum operated. He claimed that not all artifacts displayed in the museum were actually owned by Zak. Many were leased from the actual owners who weren't willing to sell their items. So Zak would lease them for display while presenting them as part of his permanent collection. Technically not lying, but misleading visitors into thinking everything belonged to him. Haunted Heights also questioned whether the objects were genuinely haunted. He suggested that the creep factor lies within the backstory of the artifacts, not the artifacts themselves. The stories and presentation created fear rather than actual paranormal activity. Marketing made them scary, not genuine supernatural properties. But Zak marketed them as legitimately haunted and dangerous, charging admission for people to experience allegedly cursed objects. The business model worked brilliantly, but raised ethical questions. The revelation about the museum's origins divided fans and critics. Some defended Zak by saying it was simply a smart business move. John Zaffis had a private museum that nobody could visit. Zak took that concept and made it accessible to the public for profit. That's just entrepreneurship and capitalizing on a good idea. You can't copyright the concept of a paranormal museum. Others viewed it as blatant idea theft. Zak specifically went to see John's museum under false pretenses, claiming he didn't want anything from it. Then he documented everything and created his own commercial version. He made millions from an idea that wasn't originally his. The ethical line between inspiration and theft became the debate. John Zaffis himself never publicly complained or accused Zak of stealing his concept. He maintained his dignity and privacy throughout, but the similarities were undeniable to anyone who knew both museums. The timing was suspicious, and Haunted Heights' account suggested it wasn't coincidence. But then things got complicated. On March 12, 2024, the Haunted Heights TikTok account was suddenly deleted without explanation. No warning, no announcement, just gone. Speculation immediately spread about why. Did Zak's legal team get it removed? Did he have enough influence to pressure TikTok into deleting the account? Or was there another explanation that would damage Haunted Heights' credibility entirely? After the Haunted Heights account was deleted, other TikTok creators began investigating his claims and credibility. What they found was troubling. Haunted Heights had claimed to work on Travel Channel shows, specifically saying he hosted and narrated haunted hotels. But when people searched for evidence, they couldn't find anyone named Drew, which Haunted Heights claimed was his name, associated with that show. The show was actually narrated by someone completely different. Haunted Heights claimed he was the voice actor for Twisty the Clown in American Horror Story. But that character was played by actor John Carroll Lynch, who did his own voice work. No voice actor was used. Haunted Heights had lied about his professional credits. His Instagram profile said Travel Channel host, but showed no paranormal content at all. Just trending videos trying to go viral. No evidence he ever worked in paranormal television professionally. When people called him out in comment sections, he blocked them immediately. Holly Madison, Zak's ex-girlfriend, commented, "He blocked me too. He's a coward." Paranormal Chris, a YouTuber, thoroughly debunked multiple Haunted Heights claims. The account returned briefly in April 2024, but was caught in more lies. Paranormal Chris proved an event Haunted Heights described never happened the way he claimed. Witnesses who were actually there contradicted his entire story. The discrediting of Haunted Heights created a complicated situation. His allegations about the museum concept being stolen from John Zaffis might still be true. The similarity between John's private museum and Zak's commercial version was undeniable, regardless of who said it. But Haunted Heights' pattern of lying about his own credentials and experiences made everything he said suspect. When someone lies about verifiable facts, their unverifiable claims become questionable too. The truth about how Zak got the museum idea may never be confirmed. John Zaffis hasn't spoken about it publicly. Zak certainly won't address it, and the person making the accusation destroyed his own credibility with proven lies. What remains factual is that the haunted museum is extremely profitable and important to Zak's empire. Whether he got the idea from John or came up with it independently, the execution was successful. But the controversy planted doubts in people's minds about Zak's originality and ethics. And more importantly, The Haunted Heights situation showed how desperate some people were to expose Zak. Even if this particular source was unreliable, the anger toward Zak was real. Multiple people wanted to see him exposed. That pattern would continue throughout 2024 as more credible sources came forward. The museum theft allegation might be questionable, but other allegations were about to be proven beyond doubt. Bill Hartley was a professional paranormal investigator from West Virginia who had worked with Nick Groff for many years. They were close associates in the paranormal community. Bill was cast in a show called Ghosts of Shepherdstown that aired on Destination America Network. The show focused on paranormal activity in the small historic town of Shepherdstown, West Virginia. Bill was a main cast member alongside Elizabeth Saint and other local investigators. The show investigated haunted locations in and around the town, incorporating local historians and psychics to provide historical context. The format was authentic small-town paranormal investigation that viewers connected with. Ghosts of Shepherdstown was initially planned as just one season with 6 episodes, but the show became the biggest thing the network had seen in terms of ratings. Viewership stayed consistently high throughout the season. The network immediately wanted to continue with season 2. They even produced a special called Return to Shepherdstown that aired on A&E Network, showing how popular the show had become. Bill was the only main cast member to return for the special. Season 2 was produced and aired successfully. The cast did press tours in New York, appeared on YouTube interviews and Huffington Post features. Everything seemed great. Plans were being made for Season 3. The network kept telling the cast, Season 3 is coming, just wait for it. Then the Discovery and Scripps Networks merger was announced. All production at Destination America was put on hold temporarily. The cast was told that once the merger was completed, everything would pick back up and Season 3 would move forward. The merger happened, but the cast heard nothing from the network. Complete radio silence. Occasionally they'd get messages saying still planning Season 3, but then silence would return again. By summer, the cast was getting worried. Nothing was happening, and communication had stopped. Then cast members started receiving strange messages from people in Louisiana. Friends and acquaintances contacted them saying, they're casting for your show down here in Louisiana. Multiple cast members heard the same thing from different sources. They're telling people who come in to audition, don't tell the cast members of Ghosts of Shepherdstown. Don't mention it to them. They don't know what we're doing here. The cast contacted the network and production company asking what was happening. Initial response: we don't know what you're talking about. You guys are it. Don't worry. But the rumors kept coming. Finally, the truth emerged. Yeah, we're not bringing you back. New town, new team. The show was continuing, but with a completely different cast. They were being replaced entirely. The cast demanded to know why. What they learned connected directly to Zak Bagans. A production insider told Bill Hartley the real reason for the cancellation. After the Discovery/Scripps merger, Scripps brought Ghost Adventures into the same corporate family as Ghosts of Shepherdstown. According to the source, a douchebag in glasses made a phone call to the network. Zak Bagans told them he refused to work on the same network as Nick Groff. Ultimatum delivered: my way or the highway. I won't be on the same network as Nick Groff. But Nick wasn't even on Ghosts of Shepherdstown. Bill Hartley was. The connection? Bill was a close associate of Nick Groff. That was enough for Zak to target the entire show. A network executive confirmed the same story to Bill. The issue isn't with anybody in the cast except Nick. Zak made the phone call. There's nothing we can do about it. Bill suggested a simple solution. Just recast his role if Nick's association was the problem. Keep Elizabeth and the rest of the cast. But the network decided it was easier to replace everyone with a new team in a new location. Start fresh in Louisiana without any connection to Nick Groff. Bill and his entire cast were released from their contracts. They thought this meant they could find other work in paranormal television, but they discovered they'd been effectively blacklisted. Other paranormal shows came and went, recycling cast members between different series. Ghost Brothers had 4 different shows over the years, but nobody from Ghosts of Shepherdstown was ever contacted again. Bill Hartley stayed silent about what happened for 13 years. His last YouTube video before 2024 was posted in July 2009. He didn't create content or speak publicly about the industry, but in March 2024, when Nick Groff finally posted his truth about being forced out of Ghost Adventures, Bill decided it was time to speak. He'd known about Nick's video for weeks before it was released. Nick had given him advance warning. Bill had been debating whether to share his own story. Nick's courage gave him the door to walk through. On March 23, 2024, Bill posted a 22-minute video explaining exactly what happened to Ghosts of Shepherdstown. He emphasized this was from his perspective and his experience, not hearsay or rumors, but what he personally witnessed and was told by people directly involved. He explained the entire timeline from the show's success to its sudden cancellation, how the network made excuses, how the Louisiana recasting happened secretly, how he was told directly that Zak Bagans had made the call to kill the show because of Nick Groff's association. Bill's message to Zak was blunt and angry. Karma is a real bitch, and I think it's coming. There's going to be other people that come out. It's not just me. It's not just Nick. A lot of truth being told now, and basically, karma's a bitch, my friend, and it's coming. He ended with, "Suck it real hard." And I know he likes that. The anger was justified. His career had been collateral damage in Zak's vendetta against Nick. The pattern was now undeniable and documented by multiple sources. Nick Groff had paranormal lockdown, successful show-threatening ghost adventures. Zak killed it with an ultimatum. Dakota Layden had Destination Fear, successful show outperforming ghost adventures with young viewers. Zak killed it with an ultimatum. Bill Hartley had Ghosts of Shepherdstown, not directly competitive but associated with Nick Groff. Zak killed it with an ultimatum. 3 different shows, 3 different casts, 3 different networks, same pattern, same man, same method. Give the network a choice. Cancel this show or lose Ghost Adventures. Networks always chose Zak because Ghost Adventures was too valuable to lose. His show brought consistent high ratings. Advertising revenue depended on it. Entire programming blocks were built around it. Losing Ghost Adventures would devastate Travel Channel's paranormal lineup. So Zak had absolute power. He could kill any show he wanted with a single phone call. And he used that power repeatedly against anyone he perceived as a threat or connected to his enemies. Nick, Dakota, and Bill were just the ones who spoke publicly. How many others were there? How many shows and careers died because Zak made a call? The paranormal television industry was controlled by one man's ego, and nobody could stop him, until the power structure changed. Keith Linder and his girlfriend Tina lived in a house in Bothell, Washington from 2012 to 2016. During those 4 years, they experienced genuinely disturbing paranormal activity. Objects moved on their own. Apparitions appeared regularly. Poltergeist activity was constant and increasingly violent. The phenomena were so intense and consistent that Keith documented everything extensively. What made their situation more credible was that the family who lived in the house 4 years before them had reported similar experiences. This wasn't a case of one family imagining things. Multiple residents over time witnessed unexplainable activity in the same location. Keith and Tina weren't paranormal investigators or attention seekers. They were regular people dealing with terrifying experiences in their own home. When Ghost Adventures agreed to investigate, Keith was excited and hopeful. Finally, legitimate paranormal investigators with resources would document what was happening and hopefully validate their experiences. In November 2014, Zak and his crew arrived at the house in Bothell. They conducted a full investigation with all their equipment and methods. Keith cooperated completely, sharing all his documentation and experiences honestly. The Ghost Adventures team filmed for their standard investigation period. Then they left. Keith and Tina heard absolutely nothing from them. Complete silence for months. They had no idea when the episode would air or how it would be presented. The episode, titled Demons in Seattle, aired in February 2015. Keith and Tina watched it for the first time along with the rest of the world. They were shocked and horrified by what they saw. The editing portrayed them in a suspicious light, suggesting they might be hoaxing or exaggerating their experiences. Worst of all, Ghost Adventures left the location with no evidence. 0. Nothing captured on their equipment validated what Keith and Tina had been experiencing for years. The show made it seem like Keith and Tina had wasted everyone's time with false claims. The response from Ghost Adventures fans was immediate and brutal. Keith and Tina were attacked relentlessly on social media, wasting Ghost Adventures' time. Attention-seeking hoaxers, liars trying to get on TV. The harassment was severe and continuous. Tina was specifically targeted. As a black woman, she received racist attacks and was called the Demon Lady mockingly. Caricatures of her were drawn and posted on Twitter and Facebook. Racial slurs were hurled at both of them. The toxicity was overwhelming. Keith reached out to Ghost Adventures production for help. He asked them to please issue a statement to calm their fans down. Tell viewers that Keith and Tina weren't hoaxers and that the lack of evidence didn't mean nothing was happening. Just help stop the harassment. The response from Zak and his production team? Complete silence. They never responded, never acknowledged his requests, never tried to help. They left Keith and Tina to deal with the vicious backlash alone. Keith felt the episode was deliberately edited to make them look suspicious and questionable. Innuendo was implied through editing choices and how questions were framed. Context was removed that would have made their situation more credible. Most significantly, the episode never mentioned that a previous family had experienced similar activity 4 years earlier. That corroborating evidence was left out entirely, making it seem like only Keith and Tina reported anything unusual. The portrayal wasn't just incomplete, it was misleading in ways that directed suspicion toward Keith and Tina as either lying or delusional. But then something important happened. In 2016 and 2017, other paranormal investigation teams came to Keith's house. These weren't television crews seeking ratings. They were serious researchers spending weeks living in the location conducting thorough investigations. Nikki Noville led a team from North America that lived in the home for 3.5 weeks. A UK team led by parapsychologist Steve Mira, chief researcher Don Phillips, and Nick Kyle flew 4,000 miles and lived in the home for 2.5 weeks total across 2 trips. Steve Mira had over 35 years of paranormal investigative experience and was highly respected in the field. Both teams documented extensive evidence of genuine paranormal activity. They published their findings immediately and publicly. The home was officially labeled an intelligent haunting and localized intelligent haunting/poltergeist infestation. Keith and Tina were completely vindicated by serious researchers using scientific methodology. Keith sent all the evidence from these subsequent investigations to Ghost Adventures. He thought, as peers in paranormal investigation, they would want to know about the validation of his claims. He hoped they would acknowledge the new findings, maybe update their episode, or at least issue a statement confirming the house was genuinely haunted. It would help stop the ongoing harassment from fans who still believed Keith and Tina were liars. The response from Zak and his team? Complete silence again. They never acknowledged the evidence, never corrected their episode or added an update, never helped set the record straight for their viewers, never did anything to stop the continued attacks on Keith and Tina. This was particularly damning because Ghost Adventures presents itself as legitimate paranormal investigation. If they're truly interested in documenting the paranormal scientifically, they should care when subsequent investigations prove a location is genuinely active. But Zak didn't care. The episode portrayed Keith as questionable, and changing that narrative would mean admitting they were wrong or their investigation was inadequate. Keith's public assessment of Zak was harsh, but based on his direct experience. I never view Zak as a real true ghost or paranormal researcher. Zak is not a paranormal researcher. He's a ghost hunter. He stays high level in his investigative methodology. I feel comfortable saying Zak does not spend time investigating the paranormal unless a camera is filming in front of him. Keith continued his criticism by stating, "He is not one I can picture doing homework. Paranormal investigators and researchers should follow the oath of do no harm. And you did a lot of harm to Tina, to me, and to others. And you never corrected that." Keith believed Zak was positioning himself as some sort of Michael Corleone figure, leader of the paranormal community regarding entertainment and what shows get on television. Anything he views as a threat that doesn't have his name on it, he doesn't want it around. Keith's experience revealed another dimension of Zak's problematic behavior beyond killing competing shows. This was about how he treated regular people who came to him for help. Keith and Tina were suffering in a genuinely haunted location. They reached out to Ghost Adventures hoping for validation and assistance. Instead, they were portrayed questionably, subjected to harassment, and then abandoned when they asked for help. The ethical failure was profound. Whether or not Ghost Adventures captured evidence, they had a responsibility to the people whose stories they featured. When their episode created a harassment campaign against Keith and Tina, they should have stepped in. When subsequent investigations validated Keith's claims, they should have acknowledged it. But Zak did nothing. Because helping Keith and Tina didn't benefit him. It would mean admitting their investigation failed where others succeeded. His ego couldn't allow that. So Keith and Tina suffered needlessly, another casualty of Zak Bagans' narcissism. Keith's story wasn't isolated. Multiple location owners reported similar problematic experiences with ghost adventures, and Zak Bagans specifically. These accounts emerged gradually over years, but formed a consistent pattern. Locations reported that Zak and his crew could be difficult and off-putting to work with. They were notoriously demanding, according to multiple sources. Sometimes they wouldn't even finish filming as scheduled. On the third day of investigation, cast members would be out drinking instead of working, leaving camera crews to collect B-roll footage without them. This behavior earned Zak the nickname Douche Bagans among some location owners and staff, but the most disturbing allegations involved legal threats. 2 location owners came forward claiming that Zak threatened to sue them if they allowed other paranormal television shows to film at their locations. After Ghost Adventures filmed somewhere, Zak allegedly tried to enforce exclusivity, preventing competing shows from accessing the same haunted locations. These owners had to hire lawyers to fight these threats. Zak was attempting to control entire locations industry-wide, monopolizing access to the best haunted sites for ghost adventures only. This would prevent any other paranormal show from competing effectively since they couldn't film at the most famous haunted locations. The alleged legal threats demonstrated how far Zak would go to eliminate competition. It wasn't enough to kill their shows. He tried to deny them access to filming locations entirely. Andrea Perron's experience added weight to these allegations. Her family's story was the basis for the Conjuring movie. She lived through the actual haunting that inspired the film. She's the original source material, someone who personally experienced what Hollywood dramatized. Andrea is known throughout the paranormal community as genuine, kind, and honest. She appears on many YouTube paranormal shows and has a reputation for integrity. When she speaks, people listen because she has no reason to lie and nothing to gain from dishonesty. According to reports, Andrea walked off the set of a Ghost Adventures production. She stated publicly that Zak's behavior was disgusting and disrespectful. The specifics of what happened weren't detailed publicly, but Andrea's statement carries significant weight given her reputation and position. If someone as respected as Andrea Perron felt compelled to walk off and publicly criticize Zak's behavior, something seriously wrong occurred. Another controversial story involves the Demon House in Gary, Indiana. Zak purchased the famous haunted house, filmed a documentary there, then had the entire house demolished. Officially, the house was torn down because it was too dangerous to remain standing both physically and spiritually. But rumors circulated that Zak demolished it to prevent other producers from using the location, specifically to stop a horror movie producer from making a film there. "That's just petty," became the common response if this rumor was true. Whether accurate or not, the story fit the pattern of Zak controlling and denying access to paranormal locations. On Halloween 2018, Ghost Adventures aired a special live investigation broadcast in real time to viewers. The Halloween live format meant everything happening was supposedly unscripted and authentic. Thousands of people were watching as events unfolded on camera. During the broadcast, Zak was speaking with a rabbi who was serving as an expert witness on Jewish spiritual matters. Zak asked about the Dybbuk box, a famous, allegedly haunted object. The rabbi responded, "I read up on it today," indicating he'd just researched the topic recently. Zak continued with his planned questions, but the rabbi interrupted the flow of the conversation. He explained his personal belief that demonic possessions don't happen the way Zak was suggesting. Then the rabbi said something that changed everything. On live television, broadcast to thousands of viewers, he stated, "That may not be good with your script, but that's my personal belief." The word script hung in the air. The rabbi had just revealed on live broadcast that there was a script. This wasn't spontaneous investigation. It was planned and written. Zak's reaction was immediate and visible. He looked shocked and uncomfortable. Clearly, he hadn't expected the rabbi to mention a script on live television. Zak quickly tried to move past the moment. "Let's go over here," he said, attempting to redirect attention to another location and change the subject. But the damage was done. Thousands had heard it, and the internet never forgets. The clip spread rapidly across social media. a popular TikTok paranormal page called Utah Paranormal posted the video with the caption, "Ghost Adventures Debunked." The clip went viral with hundreds of thousands of views. People who had always suspected the show was scripted finally had proof. The rabbi's statement, "That may not be good with your script," was undeniable. He was explicitly referring to a written script that Zak was following. This wasn't speculation or interpretation. It was a direct acknowledgement that the show had scripted elements. Ghost Adventures and its production company tried to scrub the clip from the internet. Copyright claims were filed against YouTube videos showing the moment. Videos were taken down for alleged copyright violation, but the attempts to remove evidence created the Streisand effect. The more they tried to hide it, the more people shared it. The clip was already everywhere. You can't erase something that aired on live television to thousands of viewers. More people became determined to preserve and spread the video specifically because there were attempts to censor it. The Halloween Live incident became the smoking gun that critics had always wanted. Every previous allegation that Ghost Adventures was fake or staged had been disputed. Defenders could claim it was real investigation with genuine reactions. But the rabbi's statement was concrete proof from someone who had no reason to lie and nothing to gain from exposing them. After the Haunted Heights account was deleted and returned, he posted another allegation claiming to expose Ghost Adventures for faking investigations. He said during a paid paranormal event at Eastern State Penitentiary in 2010, he caught a Ghost Adventures crew member literally banging on walls to create the boom-boom sounds that scared participants. Haunted Heights claimed he opened a door marked electrical room, turned on the light, and found a GA crew member beating on the wall with his hand to create sounds. He said he told a Discovery Field producer, "I'm out, I don't do this fake setup," and left the event. He presented this as proof that Ghost Adventures regularly faked paranormal activity during investigations and events. But Paranormal Chris, the YouTuber who had been debunking Haunted Heights, investigated this claim thoroughly. He found footage from the actual 2010 Eastern State event posted by Aaron Sagers, who attended. The event was run by Dave Schrader through his company Darkness Events. It had nothing to do with Travel Channel, Discovery, or any network. There were no Discovery Field producers there. Dave Schrader personally ran these events independently. Chris contacted Dave directly, who confirmed there were no Ghost Adventures producers or Discovery Channel, Travel Channel people there. It was my event, nothing to do with production company or network. Dave stated, "Nothing happened like he explained. I personally ran those events, so I can say none of what he said made sense. No one ever left in the first part of investigation because of those claims, as I would have been the one to walk them out." Chris also messaged Tessa Groff, Nick's wife, who confirmed after talking with Nick that this guy was never there for sure. Additionally, Discovery didn't even own Scripps Networks Interactive, which included Travel Channel until 2018, not 2010 as Haunted Heights claimed. Every factual detail of his story was provably false. This complete debunking destroyed what little credibility Haunted Heights had remaining. His Eastern State story was fabricated, but the problem was that some of his other allegations had seemed credible or at least plausible. The museum story about John Zaffis had elements that made sense. Now everything he said was questionable. This created a complicated situation for people trying to expose Zak Bagans. One of the loudest voices making allegations turned out to be a serial liar. This could be used to dismiss all criticism of Zak as coming from unreliable sources. However, the Halloween Live Rabbi incident remained undeniable. That wasn't coming from Haunted Heights or any questionable source. It was broadcast live on television. The rabbi's statement about your script was recorded fact. While Haunted Heights' fake event story was debunked, the scripting of Ghost Adventures had already been proven by a separate incident that nobody could dispute. The show had scripted elements. That was no longer speculation. It was documented fact admitted on live television by someone participating in the production who didn't realize he wasn't supposed to say it out loud. Zak Bagans cultivated a very specific on-camera persona over the years. He always wore all black. His demeanor was intensely serious and dark. He confronted spirits aggressively, using provocation techniques other investigators avoided. His catchphrases like, "I'm not here to make friends," became part of his brand. He claimed to be an energy magnet who attracted paranormal activity more than other people. Episodes featured him claiming to be demonically possessed or affected by dark entities. His dramatic reactions to every sound and shadow made great television, but invited mockery. Critics and skeptical viewers constantly called him overly dramatic. Every episode seemed to feature Zak having exaggerated responses to minor occurrences. A creak becomes, "Oh my God, what was that?" A shadow becomes, "Demonic presence confirmed." The theatricality was obvious to many viewers, even if dedicated fans believed it was genuine. In a 2022 interview with the LA Times, Zak directly addressed this criticism. "I am sick and tired of people calling me overly dramatic. It really upsets me. I'm a magnet for energies, and I can't turn that off. I'm a hyper-empathetic person. You start crying, I'm probably going to start crying too." He insisted his reactions were genuine and uncontrollable, not performance. But skeptics remained unconvinced, pointing to how conveniently his dramatic moments occurred when cameras were rolling but never when they weren't. Beyond the on-camera persona, reports emerged about how Zak treated crew members and colleagues. Multiple sources described him as difficult and demanding on set. He was allegedly condescending toward team members, particularly Aaron Goodwin, who was often the target of mockery on camera. Billy Tolley and Jay Wasley were kept in secondary roles with less prominence, despite being essential to investigations. A clear hierarchy existed, with Zak always on top. Everything centered on him. The camera focused on his reactions and experiences. Other investigators' contributions were secondary. Credit went to Zak alone, even though investigations involved entire teams. The show was Zak Bagans and friends, rather than an actual collaborative team dynamic. Holly Madison, Zak's ex-girlfriend after her relationship with Hugh Hefner, made interesting comments during the Haunted Heights controversy. When Haunted Heights was criticizing Zak, Holly commented, "He blocked me too. He's a coward." This suggested Holly had her own negative experiences with Zak that she hadn't shared publicly. Someone who dated him would have insights into his real personality away from cameras. Her willingness to call him a coward publicly indicated their relationship ended badly, and she had no positive feelings remaining. But she's never elaborated on specifics, leaving people to wonder what she experienced during their time together. Her comment added to the growing evidence that Zak's private behavior differed significantly from his public image. One consistent pattern in Zak's behavior was isolation from peers and avoiding collaboration. He rarely appeared on other paranormal investigators' shows. He didn't frequently attend paranormal conventions, where he would interact with other investigators as equals. When he did attend events, his interaction with peers was limited and controlled. He seemed to avoid situations where other investigators might question his methods or challenge his authority. This suggested someone afraid of peer review or legitimate scrutiny. Real researchers welcome discussion and debate with colleagues. They submit findings for peer review. They collaborate and share knowledge. Zak operated more like a celebrity protecting his brand than a researcher pursuing truth. Other paranormal investigators were notably reluctant to comment about him publicly. Privately, many had opinions and concerns. But publicly, almost everyone stayed silent. This wasn't respect or professional courtesy, it was fear. Zak had demonstrated repeatedly his willingness to destroy anyone who challenged him. He could kill careers with a phone call to networks. He could blacklist people from the industry. The paranormal community lived under what could be called Stockholm Syndrome. Everyone knew about Zak's behavior. Everyone had stories. But nobody spoke publicly because the consequences were too severe. Until Nick Groff and Dakota Layden finally broke the silence in 2024. Their courage opened the door for others like Bill Hartley and Keith Linder to share their experiences. But for years, Zak ruled through fear and intimidation. The paranormal industry was controlled by one man's ego, and the only way to survive was staying silent and staying in your lane. The Haunted Heights saga demonstrated Zak's attempts to control information and silence critics. The account appeared in March 2024, making allegations about Zak stealing the museum concept and having power to shut down shows. The account went viral immediately with thousands of followers and millions of views. Then on March 12th, it was suddenly deleted without explanation. The timing seemed too convenient. Deleted right after posting damaging allegations about Zak. TikTok doesn't typically explain why accounts are removed, leaving people to speculate. The account could have been mass reported by Zak's fans, or Zak's legal team could have sent cease and desist letters or made legal threats that pressured TikTok into removal. Zak has resources for expensive lawyers and has used legal threats against location owners before. The pattern suggested suppression. When Haunted Heights returned briefly in April, he posted more allegations but was caught in verifiable lies by Paranormal Chris. The account was deleted again shortly after being debunked. This second deletion seemed more justified given the proven lies, but the first deletion remained suspicious in its timing. The incident revealed a broader strategy. Zak blocks critics on social media immediately. Holly Madison said he blocked her. BJ the web guy was blocked for asking questions. Anyone expressing criticism or doubt gets blocked, creating an echo chamber of only supportive voices. This prevents Zak from seeing or engaging with legitimate criticism. Ghost Adventures also attempted to use copyright strikes to remove critical content from YouTube. Clips showing the Halloween Live Your Script moment were targeted with copyright claims. Videos analyzing or criticizing the show received takedown notices. These were often questionable uses of copyright law. Fair use allows commentary and criticism using copyrighted material. But fighting copyright strikes requires time, resources, and legal knowledge many small creators don't have. The strategy relied on intimidation through legal threats, even when the legal basis was shaky. But these attempts to suppress criticism backfired repeatedly through the Streisand effect. Every time Ghost Adventures tried to remove the rabbi clip, more people shared it. The attempt to hide evidence made people more determined to preserve and spread it. The existence of suppression efforts itself became a story. Why are they trying so hard to hide this if there's nothing wrong? People asked. Zak also allegedly forced crew members to sign NDAs, preventing them from speaking about behind-the-scenes activities. Most reality TV uses NDAs, but Ghost Adventures were reportedly particularly restrictive. This created a false sense of protection. Nick Groff's revelation that he never actually had an NDA showed that some of these restrictions were myths. Cast members stayed silent, believing they were legally required when some actually weren't. The fear of legal consequences kept people quiet even when they had the right to speak. Location agreements created another avenue of control. Ghost Adventures contracts with filming locations allegedly included exclusivity clauses preventing other paranormal shows from filming there. This gave Zak control over access to the best haunted locations. If Ghost Adventures filmed somewhere first, they could block every other paranormal show from accessing that location. This monopolistic practice prevented competition effectively. Other shows couldn't investigate the most famous haunted sites that audiences wanted to see. Multiple location owners reported receiving threats of lawsuits if they allowed competitors to film after Ghost Adventures. Most locations couldn't afford expensive legal battles with Zak's lawyers, so they complied out of fear and financial limitation. This gave Zak control over the entire paranormal location market. The most powerful protection Zak had was Travel Channel's backing. The network supported him completely because Ghost Adventures was their highest earner. They wouldn't risk losing the show. This gave Zak whatever he wanted, including the ability to kill competing shows. Network executives took his ultimatum calls seriously because losing Ghost Adventures would devastate their programming and revenue. The network was complicit in Zak's behavior, enabling it by always choosing him over other shows and investigators. But in 2018, something changed. Discovery Communications purchased Scripps Networks Interactive, which owned Travel Channel. New corporate ownership meant new executives who didn't have the same history or loyalty to Zak. They didn't owe him anything. His power started diminishing because the people making decisions weren't the ones who had built relationships with him over decades. The pattern of Zak killing shows extended beyond just Nick Groff, Dakota Layden, and Bill Hartley. Other shows faced mysterious cancellations or troubles that raised questions. Kindred Spirits starring Amy Bruni and Adam Berry experienced uncertainty about renewal. Amy had to publicly ask fans to stream and watch live because the show's future was in doubt. Rumors circulated that Zak was involved, though Amy specifically denied this. She stated firmly that, despite rumors, no one on the network is trying to cancel us, and, if not renewed, it's the merger and business decision, nothing to do with someone on network. Her explicit denial seemed to directly refute allegations about Zak, but the fact she felt compelled to address those rumors specifically showed how widespread the belief had become that Zak interfered with other shows. An anonymous email sent to paranormal YouTuber Lee from Destination Spooky claimed to be from someone at Paper Route Productions, the company producing Kindred Spirits. The email said, "Things are not so great for our show," and network has gone silent. It mentioned budget cuts happening and everyone fighting for top ratings. The email specifically stated, "We have had no bad dealings with Zak Bagans from Ghost Adventures, and we're not saying it's anything to do with him." The careful distancing from Zak while describing problems suggested the opposite. Why mention him at all if he's not involved? The email's credibility was questionable since it came from a personal account, not company email. Kindred Spirits ultimately was renewed for Season 8, proving not every show in Zak's vicinity died, but its survival illustrated an important point about the unspoken rules of paranormal television. Kindred Spirits was different enough from Ghost Adventures to not be seen as direct competition. Amy Bruni's empathetic, helping approach contrasted with Zak's aggressive provocation. The show focused on assisting spirits rather than confronting them. It appealed to different audience sensibilities. Most importantly, Amy stayed completely out of drama. She didn't associate with Nick Groff or other people on Zak's enemy list. She didn't challenge him publicly. She maintained professional distance and respect. She stayed in her lane. This allowed coexistence. The lesson seemed clear. You can succeed in paranormal television if you don't threaten Zak directly, don't associate with his enemies, and don't challenge his position as the top show. It was unfortunate that such calculations were necessary, but pragmatically it worked. Other shows that survived followed similar patterns. Mountain Monsters continued for many seasons. Portals to Hell kept producing episodes. These shows were different enough formats and didn't feature anyone from Zak's past conflicts. They existed in their own space without competing for Ghost Adventures' specific audience. The unspoken rules were, don't outperform Ghost Adventures in ratings, don't compete in the exact same format, don't work with Nick Groff or others Zak has blacklisted, don't criticize Zak publicly, and definitely don't challenge his authority as the leader of paranormal television. Follow these rules and you might survive. Break them and your show dies. The brick-throwing incident from the Ghost Adventures pilot episode at Goldfield Hotel in Nevada became the show's most iconic moment. During the investigation, a brick was thrown at Zak's head, nearly hitting him. The moment was captured on camera and became immediately viral. It was cited as proof that Ghost Adventures was real and that genuine, dangerous paranormal activity existed. The clip spread everywhere. It launched the series into mainstream consciousness. Ghost Adventures' entire reputation and success was built partially on this one moment. For years, it remained unquestioned as authentic paranormal evidence. Then in August 2024, Ghost Club paranormal investigators Jade and Mandy visited Goldfield Hotel for their own investigation. While being shown around by Heather, the location's caretaker, they walked through the basement. Heather casually commented, "This is where the brick was thrown," and then added, "That was faked. It happened in here." She said it matter-of-factly and continued the tour without elaborating. Jade and Mandy were stunned but didn't press for details in the moment. The comment was included in their video and immediately noticed by viewers. If Goldfield's caretaker was saying the iconic brick throw was staged, that called into question Ghost Adventures' foundational moment. The entire show's credibility was built on that incident, but significant credibility problems emerged with Heather's claim. She wasn't the caretaker in 2004 when the pilot was filmed. She wasn't hired until after 2016 when ownership changed. She couldn't have witnessed the filming herself. How would Heather know if the brick throw was faked if she wasn't present during filming? Presumably previous staff or ownership told her. It's supposedly location lore passed down, but that makes it hearsay, not first-hand knowledge. She has no direct evidence or verification. Additionally, she wasn't mentioned in a 2021 documentary about Goldfield Hotel, raising questions about how long she's actually been caretaker. A Reddit investigation into her claim revealed widespread skepticism. Users pointed out she couldn't have been there and had no way to verify the allegation. Alternative explanations emerged for why she might claim it was fake even if it wasn't. As caretaker, her priority is protecting the property from vandals and trespassers. People break into Goldfield regularly trying to experience paranormal activity themselves or searching for the spot where the brick was thrown. If Heather claims it was faked, that might discourage break-ins. Why risk arrest breaking into a place where the famous paranormal moment was staged? It could be a strategic deterrent rather than truth. The consensus was that Heather's claim was probably not credible given her lack of direct knowledge and potential motivations for lying. However, her statement planted doubt. Even if most people concluded she was probably wrong, the seed was there. The iconic Ghost Adventures moment had been questioned. The origin story was tainted. Whether true or false, Heather's casual comment damaged the Brick Throw's reputation as definitive paranormal evidence. Zak hasn't responded to the allegation, which is probably the smartest strategy. Responding would give it credibility and keep the story alive. Despite all the controversy throughout 2024, Ghost Adventures continues to produce new episodes. The show hasn't been canceled. Travel Channel remains committed. Season 25 and beyond keep coming, but there are signs of decline. Viewership has dropped from peak years. The controversies have had an impact even if not fatal. The cast has changed significantly from the original lineup. Zak, Nick, and Aaron started the show together. Nick left in 2014. Aaron remains, but in a reduced role compared to earlier seasons. Billy Tolley handles equipment and tech. Jay Wasley works as cameraman. Rotating guest investigators appear frequently. The original chemistry that made the show special is gone. Recent seasons featured collaborations with YouTube paranormal investigators like Twin Paranormal. This was clearly an attempt to reach younger audiences who watch paranormal content on YouTube rather than cable television. The reception was mixed. Some viewers appreciated fresh perspectives and new energy. Others saw it as desperate attempts to stay relevant with demographics that have moved past traditional TV. The guests were generally well received. Twin Paranormal conducted themselves professionally and brought different energy that benefited episodes they appeared in, but their presence reminded viewers of what was lost. What could Ghost Adventures have been if Nick, Dakota, and others hadn't been forced out? The collaborations showed the show works better with outside perspectives, but Zak's ego previously prevented exactly this kind of cooperation. Zak's Haunted Museum continues operating profitably despite all controversy. Tourism hasn't been significantly impacted. Most visitors don't know about industry drama or don't care. The museum exists separately from the show in most people's minds. Admission prices remain $35 or higher with thousands visiting weekly. The business model works. Zak's social media presence has become more restricted and controlled. He posts less frequently than in previous years. He blocks critics immediately, creating an echo chamber where he only sees supportive comments. He doesn't engage with controversy or criticism. His strategy appears to be ignoring everything and pretending nothing happened. Business as usual. Interestingly, the shows Zak killed are thriving in new formats. Dakota and Chelsea Layden's Project Fear on YouTube is hugely successful. They have more creative freedom and direct connection to their audience than they ever had on Travel Channel. They collaborate with the biggest names in paranormal YouTube content. Many would argue they're better off now than when they had a TV show. Nick Groff's Death Walker continues independently with full creative control. He owns his content and makes all creative decisions. No network can interfere or cancel him because of someone else's ultimatum. Both Nick and Dakota/Chelsea are happier and more successful after being pushed out of traditional television. They prove that networks aren't necessary anymore in the YouTube era. Direct-to-audience content creation is viable and often more profitable than network deals with all their restrictions and politics. The industry perception of Zak has shifted noticeably. Other investigators speak more freely now than in previous years. There's less fear of retaliation. The Discovery merger weakened Zak's absolute power over network decisions. New executives don't have the same relationship history with him. He can't just make a phone call and kill a show anymore. The power structure changed. The playing field is more level. This emboldens people who previously stayed silent out of fear. The fan base has divided into camps. Die-hard Zak defenders remain loyal, claiming all allegations are lies from jealous people. Zak is innocent. Everyone's just bitter. They dismiss every criticism as unfair attacks on their favorite investigator. But a growing group of critics has emerged. Always knew he was problematic. Finally, the truth comes out. They view the 2024 revelations as vindication of suspicions they held for years. Then there's a middle ground of viewers who still watch but with skepticism. They enjoy Ghost Adventures as entertainment while recognizing it's probably not entirely authentic and that Zak has serious character flaws. Younger generations of paranormal fans increasingly don't care about Ghost Adventures or Zak Bagans at all. Gen Z watches paranormal content on YouTube primarily. Sam and Colby, the Overnight Channel, and similar creators are far more popular with young audiences than any television show. Ghost Adventures is seen as boomer paranormal or old-fashioned. Zak's influence is waning naturally through demographic shifts. The audience is moving to platforms where he has no power or control. Travel Channel's paranormal programming strategy has diversified away from depending entirely on ghost adventures. While the show remains important, the network is developing other properties and promoting different shows more heavily. This suggests preparation for a post-Zak era, recognition that ghost adventures won't last forever, and the network needs other successful paranormal content. Legal considerations remain interesting. Despite all the public allegations, no lawsuits have been filed publicly between Zak and any of his accusers. NDAs prevent some people from speaking, but more are risking it anyway. The truth is coming out slowly from multiple sources. Zak probably can't sue everyone who speaks out. Too many voices now. Any lawsuit would create more publicity for allegations he'd prefer people forget. Silence is his better strategy legally. Financially, Zak isn't hurting despite reputation damage. The museum generates steady income. Ghost Adventures still pays well. Book deals and merchandise continue. He's not suffering economic consequences from the controversies, but the cost to his reputation and legacy is significant. How he'll be remembered is being rewritten in real time. Future discussions of paranormal television will include the full story of how he treated people and abused power. Documentary possibilities exist, but face legal obstacles. Multiple people want to create The Truth About Ghost Adventures comprehensive expose featuring Nick, Dakota, Bill, Keith, and others. But Travel Channel would fight such a documentary aggressively. Legal battles could prevent it from ever being released. The full story might never be told in one cohesive documentary format, remaining instead scattered across individual accounts and YouTube videos. What should Zak Bagans do at this point? The path to redemption exists if he chose to take it. Acknowledge the allegations honestly. Admit he made mistakes and hurt people. Apologize directly to Nick, Dakota, Bill, and others affected by his actions. Address the scripting claims openly. Show genuine humility and commitment to change. Work to rebuild burned bridges and repair relationships. This would require setting aside his enormous ego, which seems unlikely. His entire persona is built on never admitting weakness or error. The public image he's cultivated for 15 years is of someone always right, always in control, always confident. Admitting he was wrong about how he treated people would contradict that carefully constructed image. His ego probably won't allow the vulnerability required for genuine apology and change, so the situation remains toxic and unresolved. Zak continues pretending nothing happened. The people he hurt move forward with their own projects and success. The paranormal community stays divided between his defenders and his critics, and the full truth stays scattered across multiple accounts and allegations rather than acknowledged officially. The Kindred Spirits renewal demonstrated that not everything Zak touches dies. Shows can survive and thrive if they follow the unspoken rules. Don't threaten him directly. Don't associate with his enemies. Don't outperform Ghost Adventures. Stay in your lane. Amy Bruni did everything right politically. She maintained professionalism. She stayed out of drama. She publicly denied any connection to Zak's behavior. She built her own brand without threatening his. And her show survived. It's unfortunate that such political calculations are necessary, but they are. The Ghost Adventures controversies reveal broader problems with reality television ethics. Most reality TV has scripted elements. Paranormal shows are no exception. Ghost Adventures isn't alone in using scripts, staging scenarios, or manufacturing drama. But the level of deception varies. Some shows are upfront about dramatization. Others present everything as completely authentic when it isn't. Where's the ethical line? Should paranormal shows disclose when they're scripting elements? The format exists somewhere between entertainment and documentary. Viewers want entertainment, but also believe they're watching real investigations. The shows benefit from ambiguity. If Ghost Adventures admitted it was partially scripted, would anyone watch? The authenticity is part of the appeal. But presenting fiction as fact is ethically problematic, especially when it affects real people like Keith Linder. Legitimate paranormal research suffers when television makes everything look fake. Serious investigators struggle for credibility because the public thinks it's all like Ghost Adventures. Scientific paranormal research exists but gets dismissed as ghost hunting nonsense. Funding and respect are harder to obtain. When people hear paranormal investigator, they picture Zak Bagans yelling at ghosts, not serious researchers using scientific methodology. The The field has been damaged by sensationalized television. Exploitation of location owners and witnesses creates ethical problems. Keith and Tina's experience showed how people can be used for content then abandoned when they need support. Their personal tragedy became entertainment. When it created harassment, the show provided no help. That's an ethical failure regardless of whether evidence was captured. Power dynamics in reality television enable problematic behavior. Stars hold too much power over networks desperate to keep successful shows. Networks enable bad behavior by always giving stars what they want. Money trumps morals consistently. Zak's ultimatums worked because Ghost Adventures made too much money to lose. The system is designed to protect profitable stars rather than supporting ethical behavior. Blacklisting within industries should arguably be illegal. Using power and influence to prevent someone from working is anti-competitive and cruel, but it happens constantly in entertainment. Zak's systematic destruction of Nick's career, Dakota's show, and Bill's show demonstrated how one person with enough power can control an entire industry segment. No legal recourse exists for victims. They can't sue for being blacklisted because proving it legally is nearly impossible. Reform is needed but unlikely to happen. Better protections for reality TV cast members, limits on star power and influence, disclosure requirements for scripting and staging, support systems for people who speak out about mistreatment, consequences for blacklisting and abuse of power. But the industry has no incentive to change. Current system works too well for networks and stars. The people being hurt don't have power to demand change. YouTube and independent content creation offer an alternative that bypasses traditional power structures. Dakota, Chelsea, and Nick prove that success is possible outside network television. Creators can connect directly with audiences without network middlemen. No Zak Bagans can call and kill your show when you own your content independently. This is probably the future of paranormal content. Traditional TV will decline while YouTube and streaming platforms grow. The next generation won't even know who Zak Bagans is because they never watched cable television. Zak Bagans built an empire in the paranormal world through Ghost Adventures and his haunted museum. For 15 years, he was the undisputed king of paranormal television. He had fame, wealth, power, and influence over an entire industry. He seemed untouchable at his peak, but 2024 became the year his legacy was reconsidered and rewritten. The victims of his behavior finally found their voices. Nick Groff explained how he was forced out and blacklisted. Dakota Layden confirmed the pattern of destroyed shows. Bill Hartley shared his experience as collateral damage. Keith Linder detailed being exploited and abandoned. Evidence emerged of scripted investigations. Reports from location owners revealed mistreatment. The pattern was undeniable. Zak used his power to destroy anyone he perceived as a threat. Success came at tremendous human cost to the people around him. But remarkably, the victims survived and thrived. Nick Groff created Deathwalker independently and has a happy family life. He's free from toxic relationships and pursuing his genuine passion. Dakota and Chelsea Layden launched Project Fear on YouTube to massive success. They collaborate with the biggest names in paranormal content. They're arguably better off than they ever were on television. Bill Hartley spoke his truth after 13 years and found catharsis. Keith Linder was vindicated by serious researchers. All of them found success and peace despite Zak's attempts to destroy them. They proved you don't need network television or Zak Bagans' approval to succeed in paranormal investigation. The lessons from this story are clear. Power corrupts, especially when unchecked. Fame reveals character rather than changing it. Karma may take time but eventually arrives. Truth always surfaces even when powerful people try to bury it. You can't silence everyone forever. Bridges burned leave you isolated and alone. The paranormal community is healing and moving forward. There's more openness and honesty about industry problems, less fear of speaking out against powerful figures. A new generation of diverse investigators is emerging. YouTube has democratized the field so networks don't control everything. Better content is being made by people who genuinely care about investigation rather than fame. Ghost Adventures will continue short-term, but its legacy is permanently tainted. Eventually, the show will end when Zak ages out or viewership declines further. Younger audiences have already moved on to different content. The ending is inevitable. Zak's personal future includes financial stability from the museum but destroyed reputation. He's isolated from the community he once led. surrounded by yes men rather than genuine friends. Nobody who knows the truth respects him. His power is diminishing as network structures change. He'll be comfortable but lonely. The question remains, was it worth it? Success and wealth at the cost of destroyed relationships and ruined reputation? Making millions but losing respect? Only Zak can answer that. But from the outside, it looks like a hollow victory. The lesson for viewers is to question what they watch. Reality TV isn't reality. Stars aren't always heroes. Behind the cameras, different stories exist. Support ethical creators. Vote with your views. Demand better from entertainment industry. What happens next is uncertain, but change is coming. More people may come forward with their own experiences working with Zak or Ghost Adventures. The full scope of his behavior may not yet be revealed. A comprehensive documentary remains possible if legal obstacles can be overcome. Filmmakers would certainly want to tell this story properly with all the victims and evidence in one place. But Zak and Travel Channel would fight it aggressively. May never see release. Zak himself will likely maintain his strategy of complete silence. Ignore all allegations. Pretend nothing happened. Continue business as usual. This is probably his best move legally and practically. Responding would keep the story alive and give more platform to his accusers. Silence lets it fade eventually from most people's attention. Ghost Adventures continues producing episodes for the foreseeable future. The show has momentum and contracted seasons to fulfill. But the decline is happening gradually. Ratings dropping, cultural relevance fading, younger audiences disinterested. The old guard of paranormal television is making way for new blood. YouTube creators who grew up watching Ghost Adventures are now surpassing it in popularity and quality. The future of paranormal content is independent creators with direct audience connections. No network executives, no power-hungry stars controlling access, just investigators and their viewers. This is ultimately positive for the paranormal field. Democratization allows diverse voices and approaches. No single person can dominate or control the entire space. Competition improves quality. Bad actors get exposed and canceled by audiences rather than protected by networks. The Zak Bagans era of paranormal television is ending. What comes next will hopefully be healthier and more ethical, built on genuine investigation rather than manufactured drama, focused on evidence rather than ego, respecting people instead of exploiting them. The final message about Zak Bagans and Ghost Adventures is complicated. The show undeniably introduced millions of people to paranormal investigation. It inspired countless people to explore the field. It made paranormal content mainstream and acceptable. For that, it deserves recognition. Many people's interest in the paranormal started with Ghost Adventures. That positive impact can't be dismissed entirely. But success doesn't excuse how that success was achieved or maintained. The people hurt along the way matter. The careers destroyed matter. The exploitation matters. The abuse of power matters. Zak built his empire by tearing others down. He maintained dominance by threatening and blacklisting anyone who challenged him. He used his platform to harm people like Keith and Tina who came to him for help. Those actions define his legacy more than his success. In the end, Zak Bagans will be remembered not as a paranormal pioneer, but as a cautionary tale. A story about what happens when fame, power, and ego collide without checks or consequences. About someone who achieved everything he wanted professionally but lost his humanity in the process. Who had the world at his feet but ended up isolated because he treated people as obstacles rather than colleagues. The ghost hunter became the villain. The paranormal community is better off without his toxic influence controlling everything. The truth is finally out, spread across dozens of testimonies from people he hurt, documented in videos, interviews, and social media posts, proven by the pattern of destroyed careers and canceled shows, and it can never be buried again. The empire Zak built will crumble eventually, but the people he tried to destroy are thriving. That's the real ending to this story. Truth, resilience, and karma.